Yeah, well, what are we doing here? Huh. Oh, oh. Well, this is an invitation to all of you adepts family. Want to learn something? We got a big library here. I'm just getting things into shape here at the Hedgerow Longhouse. Hedgerow is where the Gaelic, the adepts of the bards of the druidic sect kind of hung out, and that was this big berm of bushes and trees, and there usually was a road on either side because it was like the markers. It's like where the farmers in Ireland would drag all the big rocks out of the earth to farm, and they would make fences with the big stones. And as the years went by, bushes and hedges and all kinds of things grew in them that made them impermeable. So that's wherever I go into a forest, that's what I look for, and they're everywhere, because there is no such thing as an old growth forest in the United States. Maybe a few trees here and there, but everything's been ripped up and turned into a farm and then gone back to a forest. Up there in Roanoke, that whole area was farms, and then not really. Industry came in, suburbs came in, colleges came in, and nobody farmed really anymore. And so those fields went back to forest, but no longer old growth. Yeah, that's a cheer for the old growth. Thank you all so much, and we'd sure like to say. I'd sure like to say, I'm glad that you're watching this, and I want to really appreciate all, with great humility, your generosity, your love, your attention, your appreciation of the things I try to say and bring to you, because I want to share what people have shared with me. I want to pass on what people have passed on to me. You know, for most of my life, I was the kid. I was always the young. I hung out with people, when I was hanging out with the Beats and the anarchists, they were all in their, between 30s and 70s, and I was 16, And I stayed connected within that art community, with the scientific community, inside the esoteric community, because they were all connected. Billy Kluver, great example, guy who found background radiation, right? He was part of the CFR, Council for Foreign Relations. He's the guy who turned me on to introduce me to Dr. Quigley, and he not only did that, but he brought modern art to the United States by curating the Armory show in the 20s. So here's a guy who was, connected to every known artist there ever was in the early 20th century up until he died, who had a Nobel Prize in astrophysics because he found the background radiation of the universe. And he had other things he could have gotten accolades for, but he just did them because he was interested and passed them on to people who could do a little bit better job and needed the accolades. Anyway, those are my teachers. That was the path that I followed. And they always connected me to the most amazing of things. And because I freely was in service to, in every day, in every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger, I wasn't looking for a career. I had one, service God, And folk, a number of my teachers told me that I was always a, how did they put, this one friend of mine put it, I was an acquired taste. Because another one of my friends who were my teachers said that I was ridiculously honest. Not stupidly honest, but ridiculously honest. Meaning that I would show people things that they didn't want to see, thinking that they might want to change their life for the better. Another friend of mine once called me, there's this German term called Freudenscheide, which is meaning getting enjoyment out of people's suffering. And my friend said that I was a mirror of Freudenscheide, meaning all these folks who were, thought that they were so superior to everyone else, that they just got a little bit of a amusement about how they were watching other people suffer. And instead of, helping them out, try to help them so they don't have to suffer, they would just make sure that those folks did suffer, and they took great enjoyment out of it. And my friend, my teacher, he said, because he was a Maryknoll priest who was he studied under Freud and Jung in Europe when he was a young man. And he never wore the collar. I mean, he wore turtlenecks, but never a collar. And the Maryknolls were you should check out the Maryknolls. They were the first people to drop the penguin suit and to always be there when they were needed. And they always were doctors and lawyers and had a trade behind them. Yes, they were spiritual leaders, but they did it through example. There was a great movie with Mr. Portier, Lilies of the Field, where he bumps onto this, German group of nuns, and he's a pretty handy guy traveling across looking for work, and he builds them a church, miraculously. And it changes him and them, and that's God's work. That's what I do. I got a lot of talents, skill sets, but instead of focusing on one, I kind of do them whenever they're needed. And, the universe always takes care of me. I'm out in the woods in a really nice place, but hey, it's what would call transitional or temporary, but that's what life is. The more we enjoy life, the less transitional and temporal it's just our life, But folks who have agendas where they have to get this done by such and such a date, and if it doesn't get done, it's your fault. You misplaced my hole punch. My whole life is now catastrophe because that hole punch is there. Instead of going to Staples and buying a hole punch, I'm fretting about it. Nothing was in where it was supposed to be. I feel so anxious when you open a window just because the place is so full of mold and you want to clear the air out. Oh, you're so pushy. Anyway, let's have a good time. Let's not worry about that. Let's not talk about that stuff. Wouldn't it be better to talk about what would make us better human beings? Wouldn't it be better to work together on things that would make other people who are suffering not have to suffer so much? Oh, but I'm studying and is what's important. Yeah, I don't think so. I love you guys. Remember, get a hold of me, thedudeawake42@gmail. And thanks again. Keep sending those little gifts to my postal box. Okie dokie. Love you, my adept family.